Thank you, lady. Okay, so let's get started. So Exodus, or the book of Shemot, right? That's Exodus.
Remote.
Right. Chapter 30 and verse 11. It says, And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, When thou takest the sum of the children of Israel after their number, then shall they give every man a ransom for his soul unto Yahuwah, when thou numberest them, that there be no plague among them when thou numberest them. All right, that ransom, that word ransom right there means the price for a life, right? It's the same thing that we say now. Somebody gets kidnapped, says, hey, this is the ransom for your kidnapped person. And it means this is how much you're going to pay for that life, for that person. So verse 13, this they shall give everyone that passeth among them that are numbered, half a shekel, after the shekel of the sanctuary. A shekel is 20 gerahs, and half shekel shall be the offering of Yahuwah. Now, really quickly, right here in verses 12 and 13, we see the beginning of something that we see later somebody gets punished for. So I want everybody to turn to, and I need you to read this, 2 Samuel chapter 24, verses 1 through 3.
Okay. And it reads, you said 24, 1 through 3?
Okay.
All right. And again, the anger of Yahuwah was kindled against Yashraal, and he moved David against them to say, Go number Israel and Yehuda. Sorry, 1 second. Throw that there. For the king said to Joab, the captain of the host, which was with him, Go down through all the tribes of Israel, from Dan even to Beersheba, and number ye the people, that I may know the number of the people. And Joab said unto the king, Now Yahuwah Elohim add unto the people, how many soever they be, an hundredfold, and that the eyes of my sovereign the king may see it. But why doeth my sovereign the king delight in this thing?
Okay, so right here we see this is David, right? And you see in the beginning of verse 1, it says, and again the anger of Yahuwah was kindled against Israel, and he moved David against them to say, go, number Israel and Judah, right? So we see that the Most High is angry at Israel for something that it was rightly deserved, because we had probably, and without going into it, we had done something. And the Most High is angry at us. So he said, and he moved David to number the children of Israel. Now, we see that it's an issue. This is something that David knew we weren't supposed to do this. Because what Joab says unto David, after Joab gives David the greeting, he says, but why doth my lord, the king, delight in this thing? He's asking, why do you want to do this? Why do you want to go out and number the children of Israel? That's not something that we're supposed to do. We're not supposed to take a census like that. What are you getting at? Why are you doing this? So back in Exodus, and we're going to hang out in 2 Samuel for just a second. So back in Exodus, chapter 30, verse 12, toward the bottom, it says, when thou numberest them, that there be no plague among them when thou numberest them, right? So there's a consequence for numbering the children of Israel. Just if you just want to number them for whatever sake, if you want to number them for your own personal reasons, there's a consequence, and that consequence is a plague. So now let's go back to 2 Samuel 24 and read verse 15.
So Yahuwah sent a pestilence upon Yashraal from the morning even to the time appointed. And there died of the people from Dan even to Beersheba 70,000 men.
Okay, sorry about that. So in verse 15 it says, so Yahuwah sent a pestilence upon Israel. because David had them numbered. Now, if you read through chapter 24, all right, as a result of this, 70,000 men were killed as a result of David numbering the children of Israel. But even before they are killed, let me see, verse 10. So even before the judgment came, once the number came back to David, watch David's response. Can you read verse 10?
And Dawood's heart smote him after that he had numbered the people. And Dawood said unto Yahuwah, I have sinned greatly in that I have done. And now I beseech thee, O Yahuwah, take away the iniquity of thy servant, for I have done very foolishly.
So immediately, once the number came back to David, in verse 9 is when the number came back to him, that they were 800,000 of the valiant men of Israel and 500,000 of the men of Judah. Give me 1 second. Let me pause this. Let me pause. So in verse 9 is when the number comes back to Dawood of how many there are, how many valiant men of 20 years and older in Israel there are. It comes back and there's 800,000 and then 500,000 in Judah. So in verse 10, David realizes that he has messed up. And he immediately starts to ask for forgiveness from the Most High. As a result of this, the Most High slays and kills 70,000 men of Israel. But what happened in 2 Samuel 24? Well, what happened that David did that Moses, I'm sorry, what was it that David did not do that Moses did in Exodus for it not to be considered a sin unto Moses to number the children of Israel? There was a reason for it. And it wasn't Moses's reasoning. What did you say?
Oh, I said it begin with the letter R.
Yes.
Repent.
Ransom.
Is that what you're getting at, Eliyahu?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes, it was the ransom. There was a point to it, right? We're going to see what that point is. When David did it, it was not for the Most High's benefit. It wasn't the Most High commanding David to do this, even though the Most High moved David to do it. The Most High wasn't, when the Most High gave it to Moses, there was a reason for it. We're going to see what this reason is. When the Most High moved David to do it, the reason was, I need to make an example of y'all. Y'all done pissed me off. I need to kill a bunch of y'all. And he does. So let's go back to Exodus chapter 30, and we're going to go to verse 14, and we're going to get down to the reason. Yes, we can get down to the reason. So verse 14, everyone that passeth among them that are numbered from 20 years old and above shall give an offering unto Yahuwah. The rich shall not give more, and the poor shall not give less than half a shekel when they give an offering unto Yahuwah to make an atonement for your souls. Did you see the reason?
Hallelujah.
Who can tell me what the reason was?
The reason was to atone for their souls.
To make an atonement for your soul. That's why they were numbered. They were numbered, and then they were to give an offering. And this offering was used to make an atonement for your soul. And I know for some of us, like, what? That makes zero sense. Let's keep going. Verse 16. And thou shalt take the atonement money. It has a name. Thou shalt take the atonement money of the children of Israel and shalt appoint it for the service of the tabernacle of the congregation, that it may be a memorial unto the children of Israel before Yahuwah, to make an atonement for your souls. What is he talking about? This is the Most High talking. What is he talking about?
because somebody numbered the people?
No, not because they were numbered. No.
Okay.
Giving an offering,
They're giving an offering, right?
right?
The offering that they're giving, this is the children of Israel. And it's not everybody that's giving an offering. It's those 20 and older. And specifically the men. This is going into the men who are of age that can go to war. So 20 and older. They're giving an offering. And in that offering, they're supposed to give no less than half a shekel. Right? And it's supposed to be, it's called atonement money for the children of Israel. And it says, and shall appoint it for the service of the tabernacle of the congregation. What is the service of the tabernacle of the congregation?
Is it some work that's being done in the tabernacle?
Absolutely. That's what it is.
Money go for that?
So not all of it, some of it. So that's why you see there's a distinction between, if you go back to verse 13, and it says, this they shall give everyone that passeth among them that are numbered, half a shekel after the shekel of the sanctuary. So there's a distinction between what's going where. So out of all the money that was given, half of it was for the temple, the tabernacle of the congregation. That was called the atonement money. They would use that money to take care of the temple, to take care of the tabernacle. And we're going to get into that, like literally what that meant. We're going to get into it. So think about buying animals for the sacrifices, buying oils, buying all of those things. These things, they had to come from somewhere, right? So say that again, Aliyahu.
The gold, the red, the purple.
Absolutely. All those things to decorate the temple, right? All those bars and the gold for the candlesticks, the table of showbread, all of that. All of those things, remember on top of the Ark of the Covenant, those two cherubims, they were made of solid gold, right? So all of that had to come from somewhere, the shittim wood, all that. And this is what was responsible for that service, right? So remember when we went through the law of the tithe in Deuteronomy 14, 22 through 29. Remember, it says toward the end of it, I think it's like verse 28, and it says that the Levites were supposed to get a portion of that tithe so that they can, because they didn't have an inheritance of land, they would get a portion of that tithe, the meat, the drink, the wine, the oil, all the, your grain and things like that, so that they themselves can be taken care of, so that they can eat. This is going into the same thing. So the tithe, a portion of it was for the Levites, for them, their physical body, so that they could be taken care of physically. And this, a portion of this offering, was for the temple, to take care of the temple. So this is something that we see now in the church. And they, even though they still collecting tithes and they also collect offering, they don't know what they're supposed to do with it. Because anywhere when we read here, you're not going to see that the offering was paid to a person. It wasn't to cover anybody's salary, or it wasn't to give anybody wages. Why? Because this, even though it's their duty as the priest, it's not a job. It's not a career. You don't get paid for that. A common sense question is, how can I charge you money for giving you the word of the Most High? It ain't even my word. How can I charge you for something that ain't mine? So the church now they do tithes and offering, right? And they tell you that the tithes is for the storehouse. It's to take care of the church. No, they tell you that the offering is supposed to go, and that's what we do other things with it. We give it out to missionaries. We give out blah, blah, blah. No, the tithe and the offering were both to take care of different parts of the temple. One took care of the people who work in the temple, and not even all of it. So a portion of the tithe was for those Levites who took care of the temple. And then a portion of the offering, half of it, was for the temple itself, was to take care and maintain the temple. Not at any point do you see, hey, this is for them to have wages. Even we're going to get into it, even the gold and the silver that was brought in there, they didn't say, hey, look, and this went to Eleazar the priest, 17 shekels of gold, and he kept it and he went and bought a carriage with it. That's not what it was about. So let's keep going. Yes, and we read through 16. So from there, Eliyahu, can we jump to Hebrews chapter 10 and read verses 1, 4 through 7, then 10 through 14?
For the Torah, having a shadow of good things to come, and not the very image of the things, can never, with those sacrifices which they offered year by year, continually make the comers thereunto perfect.
Okay, pause right there, right? So this is Hebrews 10 and 1, and this is talking about animal sacrifices, right? Everybody's clear with this. This is talking about animal sacrifices, right? For the law having a shadow of good things to come, and not the very image of the things, can never with those sacrifices which they offered year by year continually make the comers thereunto perfect. We're talking about animal sacrifices, and we're talking about the significance of the animal sacrifice. And I'm going to show you something. And this cleared up something, even though I had an understanding of it. This cleared up something for me like lickety split. And I'm going to show you something. So right here, we're talking about animal sacrifices. Keep going up. Verse 4.
For it is not possible that the blood of bulls and of goats should take away sins.
Pause. Is there any confusion in that statement?
Lo,
That statement is clear, is clean. There's like no ifs, ands, or buts. There's no wiggle room in that. It is not possible.
Mhm.
All right, continue on up.
Wherefore, when he cometh into the world, he saith, sacrifice and offering thou wouldest not, but a body hast thou prepared me. In burnt offerings and sacrifices for sin thou hast had no pleasure.
Pause. Pause. Verse 5. Wherefore when he cometh into the world, he saith, who is this he?
Mashiach.
Cain. This is, go ahead, Ali, what you saying?
I said, but David through the Ruach said it in Tehillim.
Absolutely. So this is Hamashiach saying this right here. And the reference is Psalm, where is it?
Is it 22?
Psalm, this one is 40.
Okay.
Psalm 40 and 6. Yes. And so this is what he's saying. So here this is Hamashiach saying, sacrifice and offering thou wouldest not. Sacrifice and offering thou wouldest not. Keep that in mind. But a body hast thou prepared me. In burnt offerings and sacrifices for sin thou hast had no pleasure. Right? So we're still under that same thing. In verse 4, it is not possible that the blood of bulls and of goats should take away sins. It's not possible. Although it was required that we do these things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then in verse 5 and 6, he says, sacrifice and offering thou wouldest not. And then in verse 6, in burnt offerings and sacrifices for sin, thou hast had no pleasure. That thou is talking about the Most High. So in burnt offerings and in sacrifices and in offerings in general, thou hast had no pleasure. Like never. Even though it was a requirement for us. Continue on up, verse 7.
Then said I, lo, I come in the volume of the book. It is written of me to do thy will, O Elohim. And then you said 10 through 14.
Cain.
By the which will we are sanctified through the offering of the body of Yahushua HaMashiach once for all. And every priest standeth daily ministering and offering oftentimes the same sacrifices, which can never take away sins.
Pause. Say that last part again.
Which can never take away sins.
Can never.
Mm-hmm.
But we were required to do this, right? These sins can never take away, these sacrifices can never take away sins. You have never had any pleasure in these things. Continue on, verse 12.
But this man, after he had offered one sacrifice for sins forever, sat down on the right hand of Elohim. From henceforth, expecting till his enemies be made his footstool. For by one offering he hath perfected forever them that are sanctified or set apart.
So you gave it away. What does it mean to be sanctified? And Eliyahu just gave it away. He just jumped all in my notes.
Sorry.
He said it means to be set apart, right? What's another way of saying be set apart? I think I heard it. Was that you, Mariahu?
Oh, yes, I said holy or kodesh.
Cain, absolutely, means to be holy, right? Deuteronomy 7:6 says, for thou art, who knows, who can quote it? For thou art
Kodesh Elohim.
a holy people.
Oh, so you go.
Set apart. Thou art an holy people, set apart, right? So here it is, we're given a commandment to do animal sacrifices year by year, atonements, right? But we're hearing in Hebrews 10 that they were never meant to please the Most High. Those sacrifices, the blood of rams and of bulls, could not take away sin. Never. What was the point of it then? What was the point of those sacrifices? So really quick, before you answer, really quick. So from right here, I want you to go back to Hebrews 9, verses 13 and 14. Right? This is what it means to be sanctified, right? We know that it means to be holy, to be set apart, and that's who we are. Right? So verse 13.
For if the blood of bulls and of goats and the ashes of an heifer, sprinkling the unclean, sanctifieth to the purifying of the flesh, how much more shall the blood of Mashiach, who through the eternal Ruach offered himself without spot to Elohim, purge your conscience from dead works to serve the living Elohim?
Two things that stand out in 13. For if, right? If is one of those two-letter words that are very powerful. For if the blood of bulls and of goats and the ashes of an heifer, sprinkling the unclean, sanctify it to the purifying of the flesh, right? If we know that it didn't work, that's not what it did. That's not what it was for. He said, but if the blood of lambs and bulls was actually to work, right? How much more shall the blood of Hamashiach, who through eternal spirit offered himself without spot to Elohim, purge your conscience from dead works to serve the living Elohim? Because that's the whole goal. He came and offered himself as a sacrifice, not only to cleanse us of the sins that we had done in the past, but it's to change our mindset that I don't even want to commit sin anymore. That's what dead works are. He says to purge your conscience, because this was the problem with the sacrifices that we were giving every year, right? I would be like, you know what? Let me go ahead and get me a turtle dove. I know I'm about to do some dirt. I know I'm about to do something stupid. Let me go get a turtle dove. Let me go get me a ram real quick, and I'm gonna make this sacrifice, and hopefully the Most High forgive me. We'll keep it going. Our conscience wasn't dead to it. The problem was, even we knew that by this means we could get a clean slate again. By killing some animal, I know I can get a clean slate. That's why this was in Hebrews 10:1. It says, for the law having a shadow of good things to come. The law of animal sacrifice was the shadow of good things to come. What was the good thing to come that the law of animal sacrifice was a shadow of?
Death of Christ.
Absolutely. 100%. It was the shedding of the blood of Hamashiach, of the perfect sacrifice. Or as John called him when he first seen him, behold, the Lamb of Elohim cometh to taketh away the sins of the world. Come on, man. Like they're giving us clues like what this is. So the animal sacrifices was nothing more, and I want you to catch this, nothing more than a schoolmaster. You get it? You can see it clicked for me too. It was nothing more than a schoolmaster. And for those of y'all who don't know what that is, that's Galatians 3 and is it 23? 3:22 through 25. So the law of animal sacrifices was nothing more than a schoolmaster. Now, this is why in Galatians, Paul says that it was a schoolmaster. And once we were done, I'm paraphrasing, once we were past that age of needing a schoolmaster, we could move on. That's why a lot of people misinterpret and think that Paul is saying that we are no longer under the law. No, he is saying animal sacrifice was only supposed to teach you and show you the importance and significance of Hamashiach and his sacrifice. Once you understand that, you're no longer bound by this, because once he came and sacrificed, animal sacrifice was to be done away with. Like, don't even do that. If you already understand. Now that you see and you understand how important it is, you don't need to sacrifice animals anymore because he was that sacrifice. You no longer need to learn that lesson. Once you have learned that lesson and you understand why this was important for us, now you no longer need that because it wasn't doing you any good anymore. It was an outward expression of an inward commitment that you have made, that you understand now. So back to chapter 10. 10 and 13. From henceforth, expecting till his enemies be made his footstool. Now, I know we've all heard this because there used to be a song when I was in, and I remember when I was a kid. I went to the enemy's camp and I took back what he stole from me. And then there's a section in that song that says, he's under my feet. And that song is talking about, they made us believe that we're talking about Satan, we're talking about Shaitan, or the devil, but we're not. We're talking about our enemies, literally. Talking about the enemies of the Most High. And he says that in verse 13, from henceforth, expecting till his enemies be made his footstool. Meaning where's a footstool? Under your feet. That's where you put it, under your feet. That's what he saw. This is making a reference to us being in rulership, having our enemies under our feet, right? We're not going to dwell on that too much. Verse 14, for by one offering he hath perfected forever them that are sanctified. And we say that sanctified means to be holy or to be set apart. Who is it that Hamashiach sanctified by dying on the cross? I don't know what that was. I heard a sound, a chirp. I don't know what it was.
Israelites.
Yes. How are we sanctified? So his blood, yes, his blood sanctified us, right? But how do we make ourselves holy and set apart? It's very simple. Something we go over all the time.
Keeping the commandments.
Keeping the commandments. Light work. This is lightweight. This is easy stuff, right? It's not open for anybody else. We're called believers, right? Because we believe in keeping the law, statutes, and commandments. We are sanctified and set apart because we keep the law, statutes, and commandments. The scripture says that the other nations shall look and see you because of the commandments. This is truly a wise nation. We're set apart. We're different because of the commandments. That's who he died for. He didn't even die for all of Israel. Let's just keep it 100. He didn't die for all Israel because surely the Most High and Hamashiach knew that 2/3 of us weren't going to make it. So I'm not dying for them 2/3 that ain't going to make it. I'm dying for that 1/3 who's going to live for me, who are willing to put their lives on the line for my sake. So he only came and bled and died and was persecuted for us, for those who are going to keep the law, statutes, and commandments. That's why he did it. That's how we are saying he sanctified those who believe in him, those who keep the law, statutes, and commandments. And we read 9:13. So now let's jump back to
Look up.
Okay, you had something?
Okay, and you might have touched on it. I was just slightly interrupted because my phone rang and it I lost track. Um, I didn't hear the answer that everybody gave. Let me rephrase that. I did hear the answer what the schoolmaster is,
Mhm.
but is there any more to that?
To the schoolmaster?
To the reason why Yahuwah would give us an instruction to sacrifice an animal when we sinned, but him knowing that this will not remove your sin. Is there another reason to why he would have us do that?
Oh, well, knowing you, I know a loaded question when I hear it. So I know you have something for it. So what, please bring it up. Let me wait a minute. Let me get a pen. Please bring it up. Because I know that you have something behind it.
Sure. But just before I do, anybody else have an idea? Or I mean, this one is kind of, it's, I don't want to say simple in terms of demeaning it, but it's like, well, don't think too hard is what I'm trying to get at for this one. Mhm. Yeah.
It was a way for the people to practice being obedient.
Okay. You want to
So we already touched on, it was a way to remind that the life that was being taken because of the sin.
That's about 90%. Mm-hmm.
So every time they sinned, they killed an animal. They killed an innocent creature that had nothing to do with their sin. Something had to die for it.
Right.
I was just going to add so that they could feel, emotionally, mentally, and physically, basically what you just said, Jania, that an innocent life was being taken for something that they did. So he wanted them to feel that.
Cain, hallelujah. Who has a pet?
We do.
We do. Okay. And when you have a pet, you don't generally treat that animal it's like a member of the family, right? It's like a part of the family. Like wherever we go, he goes, she goes. We take care that the animal eats, is bathed. It's a part of the family. And and we were very agricultural people, so animals played a huge role in our daily life. Like obviously we didn't have cars back then, so you needed camels, you needed horses, you know. Turtle doves and pigeons are amongst the clean animals that you can eat, and they were also animals that could be sacrificed because they were clean animals. So it was to show us, to remind us the gravity of our sin. Like that should be me. And it was like a reminder. So it was like, I'm not saying that people had this mind back then, but it's almost like to say, even though this isn't taking away my sin, it really shows forth the mercy of Yahuwah on me because he's covering it until a time. But this dead body right here should be me right now. It really, like, this animal is innocent. As far as I know, this animal has kept all of the commandments that refer to it. I have not. And now this thing is dead. It was innocent on my behalf.
Okay.
So it was like, yeah, it was like that should be you. Because that's what happened to Adam. When in the beginning, when they took from the tree and they knew they were naked, they took, fig leaves, right? And the Most High was like, that ain't gonna cover it.
Yeah.
Right. That's not gonna take care of what I needed to take care of. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this skin of the animal right quick, and I'm going to kafar, or cover you temporarily. You're still going to die, So, but I'm going to cover you temporarily, and in the time appointed, you know, Mashiach will come and take care of your sin. But another aspect that we have to really get into is the consciousness of sin. And you guys might remember we kind of briefly touched on this like maybe 2-3 weeks ago, or might have been last week, because you actually read it, Nehemiah, where it said that after this man died once, you know, he sat on the right hand of Elohim, but, you know, to make sure that we had no consciousness of sin. And you know, if anybody else want to chime in, if you want to chime in, Daoud, please do. But, you know, we have to ask the question, because we are on the after side of Yahushua. I mean, the after side of his death, burial, and resurrection, that is. I mean, and, you know, so even now, you know, Elohim forbid, when you transgress the law and you pray to the Most High and you ask for, and you confess your sin and you ask for forgiveness, do you still have a consciousness of sin? Because as you read, that's something that we should not be having, because this wasn't the blood of a bull or a goat. This was, you know, Yahusha. You got any content for that, though?
He does. He has a hand raised.
Oh, okay, so I can't see that. So
Okay, give me. I got my hand raised. Shabbat shalom, Mishpach T. Okay, so when it comes to the consciousness of sin, right? So this is disclaimer. I do believe Yahusha was Mashiach. I do believe he died for my sins and all that. You know, I got to give my disclaimers before I start talking sometimes, right? So this is the problem with the New Testament thought, right? So we believe that the sacrificial system didn't take away sins, right? But it did. The problem is, as Aki was just saying, it didn't take away the consciousness of sin. Meaning that, yeah, it's a pet, but I'm going to sacrifice his pet anyway, right? So now we go to the New Testament, and we have to be honest that we are 2,000 years removed from the death of Yahusha. So even the death of Yahusha carries the same, if your heart, once again, disclaimer, if your heart is not toward the Creator, it carries the exact same impact that animal did. Because most people's hearts are not toward the Most High, to where they look at the death of Yahusha, which would have been more impactful right around the time where he died, where it's like, dang, this man was innocent. This man was innocent. I don't have another Yahusha in the barn. So this man was innocent and he died, right? Because at that point, it wasn't necessarily taught that he died for the sins, right? But this man died, right? And he was innocent. The Most High is giving me mercy because I'm still alive. So I'm going to do my best in order to turn away from sin. That's where the consciousness of sin dies at. But now 2,000 years after that, most of us still have that issue with sin being alive in our minds and in our hearts, to where Yisrael has not fully turned. Even those who claim to believe in the Messiah have not fully turned and walked completely toward the Creator. So I'm gonna stop there, just in case somebody was throwing rocks at me.
No, I'm listening. You didn't have to stop. You can keep going unless somebody else wanted to add into it. I hope you didn't step on anybody's toes.
I'll hop back in if he's not done.
What? So it's just a thought, right? Like, us as those who believe in the Mashiach, we have to really like take it up a notch, right? So in that comes more with our actions, right? Like our brothers who don't necessarily believe right now, right? They believe that keep keeping the commands and so on and so forth, give you salvation, which it does. Once again, please don't mess up my words, but which it does. But us who now believe, we have something that is more, right? So us who believe are supposed to have the Ruach in order to really lead us and guide us, which is what Mashiach was talking about when he said that you have to be born of both water and of spirit. So the water is the baptism, the spirit is getting the spirit, which allows you to kill the consciousness of sin, according to the book of Ezekiel, chapter 36. That is what kills the consciousness of sin, is the Ruach. So if we have that, then there should be a portion of Yisrael which lives exemplary. And I passed the rock on that one.
Okay.
Oh,
Go ahead, Aliyahu.
you use the word exemplary, which is a code word in our modern day vernacular, and even in the vernacular of Matthew chapter 5, that I think what he's referring to is perfect. Remember last week we was talking about we are the only people who our Elohim will come and dwell on the inside of us. So let's think about this. If you had to take your pet right now, right, to the backyard, your pet that's been with you for, let's just say, 10 years, and you had to lay it down, right? You had to kill it, and you had to see its blood all over the wood and see its life being drained and it losing its life, right? You would go through all kind of, you couldn't sit there with a straight face. You'd be you'd be sniffing, you'd be crying. You might say, I can't even watch this. I can't believe I'm doing this. But when you break the Shabbat, do you even cry? When we don't pray, do we even shed a tear? When you don't wear fringes, and I'm gonna give this disclaimer if that's ever your case, does anything hit your conscience when you don't do those things? So my connection to that is in Hebrews, he said how much more, right? How much more? So and back in the day, if we sin, okay, I know I gotta kill an animal. Okay, well, like Dawood said, and I'm gonna say it this way, and like Shaul said, there ain't another lamb in the barn. You can't go, back to Golgotha. You can't put him back on Golgotha, back on the stake, back on the tree, and offer yourself for me again. So now I can come clean. So now we're talking about the severity of having the conscience seared. I mean, like Job, your conscience has to hate sin. Anything you hate, anything, it could be food, clothes, or smell, you stay away from it, period. If you hate it, you stay away from it. The fact that we still sinned is evident we don't hate it. Whatever your particular transgression, shortcoming, falling may be, there's nothing in your spirit or your conscience that has a hatred for that thing that I do to cause pain to the Most High, to cause anguish to the one I say I love, and the one who I know loves me and has had mercy on me, because that should have been me on the ground, lifeless. So what I'm trying to get at, and I think what Dawood is also getting at, is again back, like we say it so lightly today, like killing the animal was no easy task. It was not like a oh yeah, let's go do this real quick. I mean, there was some emotion, but now there were times where they were like that, but there was some emotion behind it. What I'm trying to get at is, if you can't say right now you're living perfect, but do you have that drive to hate sin, your personal sin? Where's the digging in the tugging to uproot that from you, out of you. Because again, Yahuwah, you don't put new wine in the old wine bottle, right? And nothing clean can come out of an unclean thing, right? So if the Most High, if our people was, I'm gonna do the men, if they were physically circumcised between their legs, right, and they still didn't keep the law, right? They was physically circumcised on the 8th day, and they still didn't keep the law. That meant what? That meant that their hearts wasn't circumcised. And for some of our people, our ears aren't circumcised. Even the dog said amen. He was vicious with it too. But what Dawood is also getting at too is on this side, how many people, just raise your hand or raise your physical hand or the Zoom hand. Have you ever seen The Passion, the Mel Gibson movie? Okay, I've seen it too. And I can almost assure probably everybody who raised their hand who saw it, you didn't just sit there and watch that with a straight face. Even though you knew, okay, this is a past event, this is something already happened, and you knew that Jim Caviezel is not the Messiah, but still there was something in you that was like it welled up in you. And then it might have registered like, yo, they're doing this to him because of me. I contribute to this. He's innocent, I'm guilty. I remember when I was in the movie theater, I remember there was people in the movie theater yelling, stop. I'm like, don't you know this is a historical event? Like, and if it didn't continue, then it's going to be a whole lot worse for us. But that's the point, the severity of walking in what we say is kadashim, or set apart, or being sanctified, or holiness. So with that, I yield the floor.
Okay. All praises to the Most High. All right, so let's park here for a second. Let's jump to 1 Peter chapter 1. And can you read verse 18 and 19?
1 Peter 1, 18, 19.
Okay.
Says, for as much. Huh? Oh, sorry. I'll give one second for everybody to get there. 1 Peter 1, 18 and 19. Okay. For as much as ye know that ye were not redeemed, or you could even put ransomed here, with corruptible things as silver and gold from your vain conversation received by tradition from your fathers, but with the precious blood of Mashiach, as of a lamb without blemish and without spot.
Okay. Who would like to take a second to explain verses 18 and 19? And first, before I go on, Shabbat Shalom, Elder Yaakov. I don't even know if he's still in the room. But who would like to explain verse 18 and 19? And I'm going to give you a hint. I'm going to tie this back into Galatians chapter 3.
Mm-hmm.
Was your Isha explaining it? I couldn't hear it if she was.
She has the answer.
Oh, I was just saying, from what we read, it seems to me that we were saved or redeemed or ransomed from our sins, the sins of our forefathers, and it wasn't with cash or money or silver or gold, but with the blood of Mashiach, because he was spotless.
Cain. So not only does that include cash, silver, and gold, things of value, right? Because that ties into that ties into the Torah portion back in Exodus chapter 30, when they were bringing for the offering, they were bringing the gold, and they were bringing silver and brass and all those things. That ties into that. It's not that you were redeemed or ransomed. That wasn't what paved the way for you or paved the way for you, right? It's not just those things, not just silver and gold, but what is meant by corruptible things.
Anything that can die or
Anything that
deteriorate?
can die. It's the same sentiment that Paul says when he says we're going to take off corruptible and put on incorruptible. Same concept. Paul is talking about flesh. He's talking about this, our bodies. We're going to take all of this stuff off, all of the cares of the world and all of that's concerned with this. We're going to take all that off. So corruptible refers to anything that can die. Why is that important in the context of what he's talking about? Remember, you are not redeemed, or as Al-Yahu so perfectly put, ransomed with corruptible things as silver and gold from your vain conversation received by traditions from your fathers. It's a simple thing that we say, like anybody who's watched movies, who's a movie buff, like in the movie John Constantine, Gabriel says to John, he says, you're out here trying to do these good deeds, trying to do these works. You cannot buy your way into heaven, right? So we're talking about the silver and gold and these corruptible things and their traditions, the vain conversation received by a tradition from your fathers. These are all the same things, right? You cannot buy your way into the kingdom. You cannot use anything that's corruptible here to get yourself in the kingdom. No, that's not it. That's not going to help you. That's not what this is for. Verse 19, and he clears it up. But with the precious blood of Hamashiach, as of a lamb without blemish and without spot. That's the only thing that's getting you guys into the kingdom, right? But the context that we're talking about, what is Peter talking about? Corruptible, flesh, right? Flesh, silver and gold, and traditions are all part of what? They're all what?
The animal sacrifice?
They all pertain to sacrifices. That's exactly what they pertain to. That silver and gold is going into what's actually in the temple. Those corruptible things are the sacrifices that we made. That not only includes animals, but remember, there was a sacrifice, there's drink offerings. There were sacrifices of wine and oil and things like that. Those are all a part of sacrifices. Those are all corruptible things, things that can die or things that can spoil or perish. Because if you keep old wine too long, it ain't good no more. Or if you keep new wine too long, it becomes old wine, and then it's no longer any good. So that's something that's perishable, right? The same thing like if it's, you go in the grocery store, you have perishable and non-perishable items, right? The non-perishables are more than likely they're in a can sealed from the outside environment. So that's what he's talking about right here. So he says, for as much as ye know that you were not redeemed with corruptible things. So you were not saved or not redeemed or not ransomed by any of these corruptible things, any of these sacrifices. None of that did anything for you. Now let's go from there to Galatians chapter 3. And we're going to start at verse 1. And then we're going to take a jump.
O foolish Galatians, who have bewitched you, that you should not obey the truth, before whose eyes Yahushua HaMashiach have been evidently set forth, crucified among you.
So right here, they're getting an admonishment. We know that Paul is talking to the children of Israel who live in Galatia, Galatia.
Galatia.
Yeah, they live there. And he starts off in the 3rd chapter, "O foolish Galatians, who have bewitched you?" What is another word for bewitched you? Who have bewitched you? What is he asking them?
Deceived, beguiled.
Who has beguiled you? Who has deceived you? Who has lied to you? Notice what he specifically goes into, that ye should not obey the truth, before whose eyes Yahushua HaMashiach hath been evidently set forth, crucified among you. He has been sacrificed before you. You've seen it yourself. You were there. So who has lied to you concerning his sacrifice? Now let's jump to verse 22 and read 22 through 25.
But the scripture have concluded all under sin, that the promise by faith of Yahushua HaMashiach might be given to them that believe. But before faith came, we were kept under the law, shut up unto the faith which should afterwards be revealed.
Okay, pause. So right here, we see he's setting the scene, but the scripture has concluded all under sin. We are all sinners. We have all fallen short, right, of the glory of the Most High. And he says that the promise by faith of Yahushua HaMashiach might be given to them that believe, right? That's those who are supposed to be keeping the law. We're the ones who keep the laws, right? But before faith came, we were kept under the law, shut up unto the faith which should afterwards be revealed. What was the faith that was afterwards to be revealed?
Faith in Christ.
Faith in Christ. What specifically in the faith in Christ? Not just in what he taught, not just in that he was the Son of the Most High, but remember, Paul is keeping all of this in context. What is that faith in him? How?
For him dying for us.
For him dying for us, his sacrifice. Aliyahu, is that what you said?
I said his propitiation.
Yes, his propitiation. Absolutely. His sacrifice, his dying and shedding his blood on the cross. That's exactly what he's referring to. It's back to verse 1. Continue on, verse 24 and 25.
Wherefore, the law was our schoolmaster to bring us unto Mashiach, that we might be justified by faith. But after that faith is come, we are no longer under a schoolmaster.
Right? So he's telling, he says, wherefore the law was our schoolmaster. Remember that term, it just means a teacher. It means to show you something. It needs to take you somewhere. Where does it take you? To bring us unto Hamashiach. That's what the law was supposed to do. Now, Paul is talking about animals. He's talking about sacrifices. The whole time, if you go and read through it, he's talking about sacrifices. He's talking about specifically Hamashiach's sacrifice. That's what we're going into, right? So animal sacrifice was only supposed to take you to or teach you about or give you the understanding of Christ's or Yahushua's sacrifice, so you understand how important it is. And so when you get in verse 24, in verse 25, it says, but after that faith is come. So after you understand that, after you understand his sacrifice and what that truly means, and how the law of animal sacrifice was a shadow of that. It was just to show you. After you have that understanding, Paul says this: we are no longer under a schoolmaster. We are no longer bound on animal sacrifice because we understand what it meant. Aliyahu, you had your hand raised, or you gave the sign?
Yeah, I don't want to dig into your notes, and I haven't read his notes. I haven't seen him at all. So, I'm gonna add this little monkey wrench in here, okay? And but you know, Kane, I agree with what you said. So verse 24, 25, it says, but after that faith is come, we are no longer under a schoolmaster, right? And Shaul does clearly state in verse 24, wherefore the law was our schoolmaster, right? To bring us unto Mashiach that we might be justified by faith. And I'm gonna kind of tie this back into what Dawood was saying, because holistically, this is what Shaul is saying right here. It's not just at this point that, oh, okay, once we have faith, we no longer do the animal sacrifices. And I mean, here's my disclaimer. I'm not saying that because I'm saying Nehemiah is wrong. No, I am not saying that at all. Everybody clear? I'm saying I agree with them. I'm just taking it a little further. But it was more so, this is more so the conscious part. The law here being spoken of is the law of sacrifice, of the law of animal sacrifices. Well, let me rephrase this. The law of animal sacrifices for sin, because there were animal sacrifices that had nothing to do with I sinned.
Cain.
You know, Abraham did those. Noah did those. Who else? Abel did. You know, Abel did that.
Jethro.
Yeah, this had nothing to do with I transgressed the law. I sinned. So there were animal sacrifices outside of that. But what Paul is getting at right here is when he says that we are, when faith has come, we are no longer under a schoolmaster. The concept is, let's say I'm 20 years old, right? I sin. I get a turtle dove, bring it to the Kohanim, he kills it, right? Now remember what Shaul says, when I bring it to the Kohanim, my sin is covered. I've done what Yahuwah has instructed me to do in this case, but the sin isn't removed, right? But now watch this. But even though I killed that animal or gave it to the priest, that didn't make me perfect. I still had the ability to sin the next day and so on and whatever the case may be. So when Paul says that the law was our schoolmaster to bring us unto Mashiach, so I could look at that animal like, man, he died. That's treacherous, man. You know, and then the carnal mind might say, well, praise the Most High, I'm still alive, right? But with Yahusha, we're not supposed to have this. This is what he's saying, that when faith is come, we are no longer under a schoolmaster, meaning it's another way of saying, once you have come to faith in the knowledge of the death, burial, resurrection, and ascension of Yahushua HaMashiach, the law of animal sacrifices for sin kept you conscious of sin, and it kept you conscious of your inability to be perfect. The sacrifice of Yahushua does the total opposite. It is to give you the understanding that what is required of you and nothing less is perfection. And so, because now you are to walk as he walked, which is perfect or sinless or without spot, without blemish. And that's the goal of the Torah. The goal of the Torah, it wasn't just to, you know, it's a double-headed coin. You know, one side of it shows you that you're sinful and you need a savior, and the other side says, if you do follow this will bring you to the Tahilos, or the end of the law. Doesn't mean the law goes away. It just means the goal of the law. It brings you to the actual point of the law, meaning keeping the law reveals the character of Yahushua. His personage, as he walked and lived, he kept all the law that pertained to him. So he was perfect. And that's what we have to be conscious of to attain. Whereas in the church, they're like, oh, you'll never do that. That'll never happen. They'll just say, just have faith. He did it for you, and that's why you're going to heaven. No, I do have to walk this out with faith in him. But watch this. But with the knowledge that he is in me, bringing this to pass, and not me myself of my carnal flesh. So Were you reading any more verses right here?
No, not right there.
Okay, I would just like to read 2 more verses right here, and then I yield the floor. So watch this. 24. Wherefore the law was our schoolmaster. Keep in mind, by the time Paul wrote this, they had been stopped doing animal sacrifices because the temple been destroyed.
Mhm.
It'd been destroyed, so they was no longer doing animal sacrifice. So he's not just after the mere act of doing it. He's after, why was we even commanded to do them? It was because of sin. But okay. Wherefore the law was our schoolmaster to bring us unto Mashiach, that we might be justified by faith. Watch this. But after that faith is come, we are no longer under a schoolmaster. Watch this. For ye are all the children of Elohim by faith in Yahushua HaMashiach. Now watch this. He's actually going to define that. For or because, for as many of you as have been baptized or immersed into Mashiach have put on Mashiach. Remember last week, I think it was last week when I'm talking about, we was talking about, you can only do but so much, you of yourself. He has to come in you and live in you and bring you to the fullness of what his Father requires. And you have to put him on or receive his Ruach, his spirit. And so even Paul right here, he goes back and says, I'm sorry, stick up. For as many of you as have been immersed or baptized into Mashiach have put on Mashiach. You know, if I don't put my shirt on, I don't have a covering on. If I put my shirt on, then I'm covered. So I yield the floor there.
Cain, and that's a great explanation. So yes, that was that whole tie-in, right? So let's go back to Exodus chapter 30, and I believe we stopped at 16, right? Yes. We'll read that just for clarity's sake. So Exodus chapter 30 and verse 16. It says, and thou shalt take the atonement money of the children of Israel, and shalt appoint it for the service of the tabernacle of the congregation, that it may be a memorial unto the children of Israel before Yahuwah, to make an atonement for your souls. Right? And what that goes into, let's go to Exodus chapter 38 and verses 24 through 31.
You want me to read it?
Cain,
Oh, speak up. I'm sorry. All the gold that was occupied for the work and all the work of the Kadesh place, even the gold of the offering, was 29 talents and 730 shekels, after the shekel of the sanctuary. And, and the silver of them that were numbered of the congregation was 100 talents, and 1,760 shekels, after the shekel of the sanctuary.
All right, pause right there. Now, remember what we're talking about, those who were numbered in the offering that they gave. And right here in verse 25, it says, excuse me, and the silver of them that were numbered of the congregation, right? So that we're still talking about the same thing. Those that were numbered, this is the offering that they gave. Go ahead, verse 26.
A bekah for every man, that is half a shekel, after the shekel of the sanctuary, for everyone that went to be numbered from 20 years old and upward, for 600,000 and 3,550 men. And of the 100 talents of silver were cast the sockets of the sanctuary and the sockets of the veil, and 100 sockets of the 100 talents, a talent for a socket. And of the 1,775 shekels, he made hooks for the pillars and overlaid the chapiters and filleted them. Go through 31.
Please.
And the brass of the offering was 70 talents and 2,400 shekels. And therewith he made the sockets to the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, and the brazen altar, and the brazen grate for it, and all the vessels of the altar, and the sockets of the court round about, and the sockets of the court gate, and all the pins of the tabernacle, and all the pins of the court round about.
Came. So in all of that offering that they gave, and in all of that we saw, the silver, all the gold, the brass, and everything, none of it went to any one person. Nobody got paid from it. That was a part of no one's salary. That was nobody's, their love offering, as we say. That went to none of them. You see exactly what it went to. That gold and that brass and that silver went to the sanctuary. Right, this portion of it went to maintaining the sanctuary. And you're going to see later on, and I believe I pulled it. I did. So you're going to see in a little while that there was an actual person who was charged with taking that gold and that silver and all this and melting it down and making things, making furniture, like these sockets and these brazen grates and all these things. These are physical structures that were made for the temple, right? So let's go back to Exodus chapter 30 and verse 17. Yes. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, thou shalt also make a laver of brass, and his foot also of brass to wash withal. And thou shalt put it between the tabernacle of the congregation and the altar, and thou shalt put water therein. For Aaron and his sons shall wash their hands and their feet thereat. When they go into the tabernacle of the congregation, they shall wash with water, that they die not. Or when they come near to the altar to minister, to burn offering made by fire unto Yahuwah. So they shall wash their hands and their feet, that they die not. And it shall be a statute forever to them, even to him and to his seed throughout their generations. Right? Again, this is something that we went through either last Sabbath and the Sabbath before that. It was talking about Aaron and his sons, and mainly the high priest duties. This is something that they do. Before they went in to see the Most High, they had to wash their hands and feet. Before they went into the Holy of Holies, they had to wash their hands and feet, or they would die. Aliyahu, you had something?
Yeah, and I'm gonna just make this real quick. So you made the statement. Well, Paul did. He talked about the law of animal sacrifices was our schoolmaster, right? And that once we came to faith, the schoolmaster was no longer needed, right?
Okay.
Well, if the animal sacrifices were just a shadow of things to come, and the animal sacrifices was the schoolmaster, then what exactly were those priests for? Or what exactly were those, Aaron and his sons? If the law of sacrifice was a schoolmaster, then so was Aaron and his priesthood. Because they were the ones doing it, right?
I understand where you're coming.
I'll yield the floor for now. I'll come back to that at the end.
Okay. Kenny, that's something to think about. So that was 21. Yes, 21. Verse 22. Moreover, Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, take thou also unto thee principal spices of pure myrrh 500 shekels, and of sweet cinnamon half so much, even 250 shekels, and of sweet calamus 250 shekels, and of cassia 500 shekels, after the shekel of the sanctuary, and of oil, olive, and hin. And thou shalt make it an oil of holy ointment, an ointment compound after the art of the apothecary. And I don't know if anybody else knew this, but apothecary just means perfume. I didn't know that. I'm sorry. When I saw that, I was like, what? That's all it is? Because like I'm a fan of woodworking and I keep seeing like apothecary cabinets and all that. And I'm dope with it because I like the way they look. I had no idea that was it just meant perfume. Sorry. So it says, and it shall be an holy anointing oil. And thou shalt anoint the tabernacle of the congregation therewith, and the ark of the testimony, and the table and all his vessels, and the candlestick and his vessels, and the altar of incense, and the altar of burnt offering with all his vessels, and the laver and his foot. And thou shalt sanctify them, that they may be most holy. Whatsoever toucheth them shall be holy. Verse 30. And thou shalt anoint Aaron and his sons, and consecrate them, that they may minister unto me in the priest's office. And thou shalt speak unto the children of Israel, saying, this shall be a holy anointing oil unto me throughout your generations. Upon man's flesh shall it not be poured, neither shall ye make any other like it, after the composition of it. It is holy, and it shall be holy unto you. Whosoever compoundeth anything like it, or whosoever putteth any of it upon a stranger shall even be cut off from his people. Okay, now two things. This oil right here, this oil is specifically for the temple and for the priests. And then the Most High says, and this is where it's worded, upon man's flesh shall it not be poured. So with that language right there, what kind of statement is this?
Thou shalt not.
Thou shalt not. So what do we say that is?
A law.
This is a law. This is a commandment. It says, thou shalt not pour this upon any man's flesh. And then he goes on and says, neither shall ye make any other like it. Again, is that a commandment or a law again?
Okay.
Cain. So it's another law. Then he says, after the composition of it, it is holy, and it shall be holy unto you. Now here is the judgment for this law. And I didn't mean to say that out loud, but this is the judgment of that law. Whosoever compoundeth any like it, or whosoever putteth of it upon any stranger, shall even be cut off from his people. Now, that cut off from his people, what do you think the Most High means? Yes. He does not mean that you are going to be taken away from the group and sat over there and you can't hang out with us anymore. No, it means you are to be cut off by death. So if you break these laws right here, you are to be put to death. So if you make this compound, even though he just gave you the ingredients, how it's supposed to be made, you cannot do this. This is very important. I'm gonna show you why. We're gonna keep going, and because he does it again, and I'm gonna show you why. So verse 34, and Yahuwah said unto Moses, take unto thee sweet spices, stacked, and onycha, and galbanum, these sweet spices with pure frankincense, of each shall there be a like weight, and thou shalt make it a perfume, a confection after the art of the apothecary, temperate together, pure and holy. And thou shalt beat some of it very small, and put of it before the testimony in the tabernacle of the congregation, where I will meet with thee. It shall be unto you most holy. This is most holy. This right here is most special. And as for the perfume which thou shalt make, ye shall not make to yourselves according to the composition thereof. It shall be unto thee holy for Yahuwah. Whosoever shall make like unto that to smell thereto shall even be cut off from his people. Did we get another law right here? Did we get another judgment for breaking that law right here? The Most High just showed us how to make these two ointments, these two perfumes. One of these, obviously, this is something that he loves. This is special to him. This is something he loves to smell. So like anybody have their own perfume or their own cologne, like, yep, this is mine, I like it. And you don't want nobody else to wear it. You don't want nobody else to smell like it. That's exactly what the Most High is saying right here. This is mine. I like the way this smells. None of y'all can have it. I don't want to catch y'all in my drawer putting this perfume on. Aliyahu, what were you about to say?
Right, and you're absolutely right. And I was also just going to say that one of the reasons that he says this is because this is the Kadesh oil that Noah made when he made atonement for the earth after the flood.
Oh, okay, Cain. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So apparently this is what the Most High likes. This is one of the smells that he likes, and he don't want anybody else to have it, right? Because he says, it shall be unto thee holy for Yahuwah, means set apart for Yahuwah. This is only for him. This is his and his alone, right? Where else have we seen the Most High do something similar to this, where he gives us an instruction on something, how to make it, where it's supposed to be, what it's supposed to look like, what it is, but you better not touch it?
Instructions for the tabernacle.
No, not instructions for the tabernacle, because remember, at this point, Aaron and his sons were supposed to go in and out of the tabernacle. They were supposed to go in there. You're gonna see in a little while that there was a man that was supposed to build the tabernacle. So it's not that we couldn't touch it. It was just certain parts of it.
I didn't mean the tabernacle. I meant the Ark of the Covenant and all that. You know, the Ark and the Holy of Holies.
Absolutely. You better not touch it. You're gonna mess around and get yourself hurt or killed it. What else? Where else have we seen this? Will you say Eliyahu?
You said or killed it. I said from the quicker picker upper.
There you go. You get yourself dead. You can kill you till you die. How about this? Let's jump back to Genesis chapter 2. Now, where did I put that? Yes, Genesis chapter 2 and verse 9 and verse 17.
And out of the ground made Yahuwah Elohim to grow every tree that is pleasant to the sight and good for food, the tree of life also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil.
All right, so pause right here. We see that the Most High, all of the fruit, all of the trees that we see in the garden that were good for food, that look good and smell good, whatever you want to do with your food, the Most High put all of that here for us, right? The tree of life and the knowledge of good and evil, right? All of that's right there in the garden. Let's go to verse. Matter of fact, instead of just 17, can we do 15 through 17 out?
And Yahuwah Elohim took the man and put him into the garden of Eden to dress it and to keep it. And Yahuwah Elohim commanded the man, saying, of every tree of the garden thou mayest freely eat, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil thou shalt not eat of it. For in the day that thou eatest thereof, thou shalt surely die.
So right here, we see these are laws, right? These are commandments that the Most High has given Adam at this time. So we have the Most High put these trees in the garden, put all of this in the garden. He put it there, right? So this is what it is. These you can see them. He said that they're good and pleasant for the sight. Some are good for food. The tree of life and the knowledge of good and evil. All of that's right there in the garden. He's not hiding it. The Most High is not hiding it from anyone. It's right here in the garden. But then he tells Adam, I'm going to put you in the garden so that you can keep it and take care of it. But of these specific trees, eat all you want to. These trees that bear fruit and look good, eat all you want to. Have at it. But of these two, stay away from those. Don't touch it. It's the same thing that we see with the oil that he just gave Moses and Aaron in the temple. He said, I'm going to show you exactly how to make it, exactly how to put it together. But if you're not using it for what I'm telling you to use it for, don't touch it. And with the oil that's for mine, you can't even make it. This is what I want. This is just for me. This is my scent. Don't touch it. This is set apart just for me. So the Most High we've said it before, he's redundant. He'll show you, he'll do something one place and then he'll do it again someplace else, just to reiterate the point. I am a jealous El. If I tell you that this is something for me, then it's for me. And the consequences thereof, just like he told Adam back in Genesis, he said, in the day that thou eatest thereof, thou shalt surely die.
Mhm.
When we get to Exodus chapter 30, when he tells them people, he says, if you make this, or if you put this upon any stranger or any man, you shall even be cut off from his people. You shall die. Whosoever shall make like unto that to smell thereto shall even be cut off from his people. You shall be put to death. Even though I'm showing you how all of this works, the reason that so simple things, the reason that this is even here, the reason that the trees were even in the garden that were forbidden to be eaten, the reason they were there was for obedience. If you don't have the option to do it, then you don't have the option to disobey. The reason that stuff was put in the garden where Adam and Eve were, I told him not to do it. I need to see if he's going to be obedient. I need for him to have the choice to not follow me. Because if he chooses to follow me, he's making the choice to follow after what I'm telling. He's being obedient. But if he chooses to go and do something else, he's made the choice to be disobedient. And I know that sounds like it goes against me saying we don't have free will. It's not going against it. The Most High already knew what was going to happen. So if I know the outcome of it, you don't really have free will. You're just following the path that I left before you. Hi, my name is Breadcrumbs and I'm a red flag. Here, take that. That's what that is. But Ma, I see you have a question. I saw you leaning forward like you was about to unmute. Okay. So Exodus, is that end of 30? Yes, that's the end of chapter 30. Does anybody have any questions? Or any comments or whatever pertaining to chapter 30? All right, let's continue on. Cool.
I just wanted to give a quick story real quick. So back when I was in the mainstream church and I was real new, still learning about this stuff, I remember reading this passage and actually going online looking for the stuff to make this ointment because I never finished reading the chapter.
Oh.
But before I got too far into ordering stuff, the Most High pulled me and was like, you need to finish reading the rest of the chapter. And I was like, oh, okay, this is something I'm not supposed to make. So
that'll get you on the Israelite watch list. You know, like if you on the internet and you start ordering things that the government deems are dangerous, like bomb making supplies, they put you on the watch list. Yeah, if you start this stuff, that put you on the Israelite watch list. And they be like, are you about to are you trying to make that forbidden ointment? You trying to make Elohim's perfume?
Yeah, because I was mixing oils and doing shea butters and stuff like that back in the day. So I was like, yeah, okay, a holy oil. But nah,
right. Get yourself
the Most High didn't let me get far.
All praises to the Most High that he gave you that and you understood. Let me keep reading. Let me because you definitely about to put yourself in a world of hurt. So let's keep going. Chapter 31. Okay. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, see, I have called by name Bezaleel, the son of Uri, the son of Hur of the tribe of Judah. And I have filled him with the spirit of Elohim in wisdom and in understanding and in knowledge and in all manner of workmanship, to devise cunning works, to work in gold and in silver and in brass, and in cutting of stones to set them, and in carving of timber to work in all manner of workmanship. Now remember when we was talking earlier, and you saw when we get to Exodus 38, we see that, you know, this is what the money was, not the money, but the offering was for. The offering was for building of the temple, for the furniture and those things. Now here it is. This is the man, Bezaleel, who is responsible for building these things, for making these things, the bars and the sockets and the everything that goes into the temple. Now I want to show you something funny. Show you something real funny. Let's jump to Romans chapter 8, verse 28. verses 28 through 30. I think I just lost my partner. Oh, there you go.
Romans 8:28.
28 through 30, y'all.
All right, it's
Very popular verse.
and we know that all things work together for the good to them that love Elohim, to them who are the called according to his purpose, for whom he did foreknow, he also did predestinate to be conformed to the image of his son, that he might be the firstborn among many brethren. Moreover, whom he did predestinate, them he also called, and whom he called, them he also justified, and whom he justified, them he also esteemed or glorified.
So, in short, what Paul is saying is, whenever the Most High calls you to do something, he gives you the tools necessary to complete the task. Just ask Moses. Right? Moses, I'm calling you. I want you to be the leader. I want you to be the one that goes to Pharaoh to get my children, bring them back and redeem them to me. And Moses is like, are you sure about me? I got these. Well, I already got that covered. I'm slow of speech. Nah, got that covered. Them who he calls, he equips. Now watch what he get. Now let's go back to Exodus 31. Watch what he gives Bezalel. See, verse 31, chapter 31 and verse 2. See, I have called by name. So the Most High called him by name Bezalel, the son of Uri, the son of Hur of the tribe of Judah. And I have filled him with. Right? Do you see this? The Most High saying it. I have filled him with the spirit of Elohim in wisdom and in understanding and in knowledge and in all manner of workmanship. This comes after. This is chapter 31. This comes after he's explained to Moses what that offering is to be used for. This is what I want you to, this offering is going to go into the building of the temple and the keeping of the temple, the maintaining of the temple and all of those things. Now he's telling you that I have specifically called a man who is able to do the work. Not only can he do the work, but he's an expert. Most High didn't just give him wisdom. He didn't just give him understanding, didn't just give him knowledge, but he also gave him his spirit. And he's good in all manner of workmanship. So talking about being called and then justified. Oh my God.
What's wrong?
Is there a hurricane or a tornado coming?
Yeah.
Okay, guys, I